April 23, 2020, the day Quibi launched its first episodes, and the world learned that a streaming service could cost $1.75 billion to build, yet disappear in less than a half year. It was a headline that seemed ripped from a Hollywood thriller, and the story behind it is a cautionary tale of hype, timing, and a misreading of what audiences really want. When former Disney executive Jeffrey Katzenberg and former NBA star Mike Miller announced Quibi in August 2018, the buzz was instant. Quick Bites promised a new way to consume premium content, short, cinematic episodes designed for mobile viewing, each no longer than 10 minutes. The premise was simple, yet seductive. In a world saturated with TikTok clips and Instagram reels, why not give Hollywood-level production values to the snack-size format? Investors ate it up, pouring in $1.75 billion from the likes of Blackstone, Disney's own venture arm, and even a few celebrity backers. By the time the platform was ready to go live, the roster of original shows read like a who's who of the industry. Steven Spielberg's The White House, with a starring role for Kerry Washington, a sci-fi thriller from the creators of Stranger Things, and a reality series hosted by none other than Snoop Dogg. The launch was a spectacle. A glossy, high-budget commercial rolled across television screens, promising viewers a premium, mobile-first storytelling experience. Quibi's headquarters in Los Angeles glowed with neon signs that read, "Future of TV." The company boasted a proprietary technology stack that could dynamically adjust video quality based on a user's data connection, and a unique turnstile player that let viewers switch between portrait and landscape without losing the narrative flow. It seemed like the next evolution in streaming, and the marketing machine was in overdrive. But beneath the glittering veneer, warning signs began to surface almost immediately. First, the very premise that made Quibi distinct, short-form, mobile-only content, clashed with the habits of the very audience it wanted to capture. While users do scroll through short clips on social media, they also binge long-form series on their living room screens. Quibi's decision to lock its library behind a mobile-only app ignored the fact that the biggest streaming successes, Netflix, Hulu, Disney+, thrive on cross-device flexibility. When a family gathered around a TV, Quibi was simply not an option. Second, the pricing model raised eyebrows. At $4 a month for an ad-free experience or $7 with ads, Quibi positioned itself as a premium service. Yet the content library, while star-studded, was still modest compared to the massive catalogs of its competitors. Viewers were being asked to pay for a service that offered less content, in a format that didn't fit their primary viewing contexts. Early reviews highlighted this disconnect, with critics noting that the short episodes felt unfinished or designed for a different platform. Third, the timing could not have been worse. Quibi launched in the midst of a global pandemic. While millions were stuck at home, the appetite shifted toward marathon-style viewing. People were watching entire seasons of The Crown or Stranger Things on their living rooms, not a 10-minute bite between Zoom meetings. Quibi's mobile-first focus felt like an afterthought, a product designed for a world that no longer existed. The first week's numbers were sobering. Internal estimates suggested that Quibi had only about 300,000 active users, a fraction of the millions it needed to justify its massive burn rate. Within a month, the company announced that it had missed its subscriber targets and that it would be cutting jobs, laying off a third of its staff. The layoffs were accompanied by a wave of internal emails that hinted at a lack of cohesion between the creative and technical teams, and a culture that prioritized flash over function. By October 2020, the cracks widened into chasms. The board, led by Blackstone's Peter Good, demanded a strategic pivot. Katzenberg, who had once been hailed as the visionary behind Disney's revival, found himself defending a product that no longer resonated. In a desperate bid, Quibi introduced a new premium, tier that allowed downloads for offline viewing and attempted to open the platform to TV screens via a partnership with Roku. The changes were too little, too late. On October 21, 2020, a stark announcement echoed through the tech and entertainment press. Quibi would cease operations. The company would sell its content library to Roku for an estimated $150 million, a fraction of its original investment. Employees were given severance, and the brand that had promised to reinvent short-form viewing was quietly retired. In a final press release, Katzenberg expressed deep gratitude for the team's effort and confidence that the content would find a new home. The words sounded rehearsed, a polite ending to a saga that had roiled headlines for months. The aftermath of Quibi's collapse offers lessons that ripple through the streaming landscape. For investors, it served as a reminder that capital alone cannot overcome a mismatched product-market fit. For creators, it highlighted the risk of aligning too tightly with a single platform's vision, especially when that vision is untested. For audiences, it reinforced the idea that convenience and flexibility still outweigh novelty. Moreover, the rapid acquisition by Roku underscored a growing trend. Large tech platforms are willing to absorb niche content libraries, not to preserve the original brand, but to enrich their own ecosystems. Subscribe to The Collapse for more stories like this.